In this video, I'm going to show you how to test a headlight bulb with a multimeter. And you can tell this bulb is bad, which is for the low beam. That happens to be a Philips headlight bulb. I'm going to test it with a multimeter. So this is what a good bulb's supposed to have when you have continuity. When you get that beep on that multimeter, that means the bulb is good. So we're going to test this bulb, and it should get resistance as we touch those two pins inside. Just gotta get it on those leads. Doesn't matter which way you connect it, it'll still get resistance. And if you do get resistance, that means the bulb filament is good. The bulb is bad. No resistance. So we find this one to be bad. Let's test the other one. It's the same exact bulb, happened to be a Philips OEM bulb, which happened to come out from a 2015 Chevy Volt that had this headlight bulb, which I have replaced like 3 years ago from an old video I have when I did a headlight bulb change on a Chevy Volt. So we're going to test this bulb and see if we get resistance. And if you do, you have a good bulb. Yep, the bulb is good. You can tell this bulb is good. And if you have two bulbs and you find one is out, it's always best to replace both of them. And for whatever reason, you should always wear gloves when handling replacing headlight bulbs. Because if you don't wear gloves and you touch your finger on this bulb, the oil on your fingers could intentionally touch the bulb and it will cause bulb deterioration, and it will actually wear out the bulb, burn out fast, and you're going to end up with this bulb not lasting long. And of course, these ones have O-ring gaskets on the side that basically seals as you put it into the lamp housing, which gives it a good watertight seal, and it also prevents condensation from coming into the headlight housing. And if you ever experience headlight housing having condensation and all, it's more than likely that your housing could have a crack or could just be the actual bulb itself that actually has an O-ring gasket, and those things are most common to start warping out or have some type of deterioration if you ever experience the O-ring gasket being deteriorated, or if you ever expected it for a bulb that's actually burnt out. It's more than likely it's always best to replace both of them even if you suspect one bulb burnt out. And usually there are some cases that doesn't usually mean your bulb is always the problem. Always best to check your housing, make sure it's not damaged at all before you replace the bulb, which usually if your headlight housing is good, should just be the bulb that's easy to replace. And of course we have these ones, which they are just one of these being a miniature bulb that you usually see these a lot around with headlight housings, with turn signals, brake lights, reverse lights, daytime running lights, whatever you have that usually have in most model cars nowadays use this. Basically, if you guys come across these ones, and this one happens to be a Wagoneer bulb, which is fairly common around usually if you usually come across these brands, which I'm going to give you a good focus on it, see if you could see the brand. There we go. You can see this is the Wagoneer 3057. This happened to be a brake light bulb that I just replaced from a 2003 Chevy Suburban that had a bulb that was out, so I replaced both of them with fresh new bulbs. And this one happens to be good, as you can tell, which you never know how good these will be, even if you see a darkened spot on the top. And if you see this, that means your bulb is on its way out. And usually sometimes bulbs will be a lot worse if you've seen bulbs get blackened like this, means your bulb is actually burning out. So it's best to replace them to avoid any troubles from happening in the future. And usually there are most cases, and you could see the filament inside is intact, which you usually can't tell because of the burnt spot you can see from the top. Usually that usually happens with normal wear from all of this operation from being used with the brake light or whatever you're using in the car with this headlight bulb you have in a socket. Usually these things will get hot, start wearing out like normal. Basically, from all this long lifespan use from it, the bulb will start going on its end of failing. So we're going to test this one. And this one, you got to be a little patient with this part, because this one, you can tell the socket's in the bottom. Usually you just got to be very careful in getting your connections in there. And this one's a little tricky, so you just got to wedge it into these pins, which this one is a push-in connector socket versions you guys seen with vehicles with light bulb sockets. They usually plug in the bulb that gets powered to it. You always got to make sure you turn your vehicle off when changing bulbs, and make sure you wear gloves. But don't worry, guys, this is an old bulb anyways. This one's getting recycled. This one's getting trashed anyways, because this is a bad bulb, unfortunately. And I just put fresh new ones in a vehicle right now with fresh bulbs. So you guys don't need to worry about the bulb being ruined and stuff. We already know this bulb is old. And it's safe to touch it, really. Even if you're handling with old bulbs, it's fine. Even if you're taking an old bulb out that's bad, yes, you can take it out, wet out gloves, but make sure you wear gloves. That's usually the most thing why I do. You can see I have one lead touching to the top and the bottom. And you can see we're getting resistance. So that means the bulb is good. And this one happens to be a dual filament, as you can tell, but just gotta focus this so you guys can see the filament inside. You guys can see it. It's hard to see it because it's a little burnt from the glass, as you guys can tell, but it's still good. And there's no way that this could be good, because you could see it's burnt means that it's on its way out, as I mentioned on the video. So it's always important to make sure you inspect your lights to make sure it's working. And if you find suspected to a light bulb that's not working, it's always best to take the housing out, pull the bulb out, test it with a meter. And if you don't have a multimeter, you can test it with a 9-volt battery, which I'm going to show you that in a minute once I am done with this testing on a multimeter. And there are methods to easily tell if it's actually good or not. Which, yeah, this multimeter is very handy for jobs like this. You can see we have a good bulb. Yep, this bulb is good. So I'm going to test this side on the bottom, and then the top. Yep. This bulb happens to have good filament, but you can tell the bulb it's slightly good, but doesn't mean it's good as for long, because this bulb is going to burn out no matter what you're going to do. What a bulb that goes for a car headlight or one of your brake light housings. These ones, if you see it burnt like this, it's always best in early in time to replace it, so you don't have to worry about bulbs going out. So we're going to test this one. It happens to be a 3157. So this one has pins on the bottom, like the same one like what I showed you on the Wagoneer version. This one's the Alco. So I'm going to test from one and then the bottom. Yeah, we're getting some resistance. That means one side is good, and let's test this side. Because happen to know, for this one, it's a dual filament, and if it's a single filament, you actually just have one filament that you're just testing. But for this one, it happens to be a dual filament bulb. And there are ways to tell it, because for this one, it's a dual filament. It doesn't mean always good, and if you know your bulb is out on one side means the other one is good, but means that you should replace it better off. I have one on one side and the other side testing it. We have no resistance, so that means this bulb is bad. And that's how you test a headlight bulb with a multimeter. And also you can do this also with a 9-volt battery. You just got to be very careful on for these bulbs, because these bulbs are of course easy to test, tell if the bulb is verified to be bad or not, which you just got to be very careful. Make sure you wear gloves, of course. Make sure you have the 9-volt battery at a good position, just like this, straight up, and then you use the 9-volt battery, touch at the bottom and top. And don't leave it on for too long, because you know you're going to just heat up the battery, which usually don't do that, because that would really use so much heat and resistance, and where the battery's going to become hot. And once you see a filament glow, then that means your filament is good, and you just got to do the same thing to the other side, because happen to know that this bulb is a dual filament and also works same with single filament bulbs. If you guys happen to have single filament bulbs like this or something different, it will work the same thing. You can do it with a multimeter tester. And usually for this is a multimeter. Of course, this one usually does test continuity, resistance, voltage, even capacitance. It doesn't matter what meter you have, it will work just fine. It will work on this for testing a bulb. If you have a multimeter, this is very easy to use, even if you guys know on using a multimeter. Of course, these things will be pretty straightforward and easy to use, even if you ever used one before with this multimeter on testing bulbs. These things are very easy to test, and this is a way to save you money on having to verify if your bulb is good or not. On a headlight bulb, turn signal bulb, it don't matter what bulb it is, usually you can test whatever bulbs you have. It'll actually tell if it's good or not. The multimeter showing you a reading if it's good or not. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful, please consider hitting the like button, and make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already on this repair channel. And have a great day. Stay safe. Bye.